Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we got the wrong ticker on there.
Oh no, sorry. I thought I was being clever. I was going to do it without my eyes going, without looking at it. There you go.
There we
Just
go.
like that. Click one click and it was done.
The wrong ticker.
Yes.
How are you doing this week?
I'm absolutely exhausted. Lots going on at work. Never a dull moment in healthcare. So it's lots going on. We are approaching a milestone in building a new tower for Kamloops. So there's a lot going on for handing that building over to us. So, but yeah, no, it's very eventful. Nothing much really going on this week apart from the release of our new book, Cathy.
Yes, your new book. It's so exciting. I get my copy tomorrow.
Oh, I know. And I get mine as well. I'm just trying to figure out the screen here because I was going to bring it up, but the screen's crashed and now I'm going to look all goofy. But there you go. There you go. Okay, so
there it is.
Jason and my new book. It is I Want to Believe, an Investigator's Archive. So basically, the thought process behind this is that I decided a few months ago to. I know a lot of people in the field. Over the years, I met some really great people. A lot of people touched my heart. A lot of people are my very close friends as well, like Cathy. Each one of them has a very unique story about the field and how they got into the field. And Jason and I decided that their story should be told. The book covers Bigfoot, cryptology. It's different realms of the field, different realms of the paranormal field. So there's about 26 chapters, 24 to 25, 26 chapters in there with different people, credible people from the field. So it's out on Amazon now. So if you guys want to take a sneaky peek at it and get your copy. Mm-hmm. Or it's on that, I was going to say Tinder then. What's it? It's not on Tinder. All right.
No, Tinder.
I'm not on Tinder. I'm married, honestly.
Swipe right.
Yeah. Let's get rid of that one, shall we? No,
it's not on Tinder. I have no idea. I don't know Tinder.
Is it? No, it's Kindle. I believe it's Kindle.
Kindle.
That sounds more logical. So yeah, it's out there. Go and take a look. Go and get yourself a copy, and I hope you guys enjoy it because it was definitely a lot of fun making. We are actually starting to plan our next book in the near distant future. It's nothing to do with Tinder or whatever it is. So let's just get off that subject pretty quickly because that will attract more lunatics as to what we've had over the last few weeks. Cathy.
I can't help. Now I got a case of the giggles.
I know. So yeah. Anyhow. So the next book we're going to probably be starting next month. It's a subject that's going to be very close to my own heart. It's nothing to do with Tinder or anything like that. It's a subject about it's multiple interviews with people that have had near-death experiences, and we're just going to document their accounts of what went on. What triggered it? There's a couple of people when we started research for this book, the up-to-date version of the I Want to Believe series. A couple of people came forward and mentioned about their near-death experiences, and there was a lot of parallels on that in relation to what I experienced when I went into a coma. So, and it was just, it was good. It was kind of refreshing to talk to people that have been in the same boat as well. And like Jason suggested let's get it on our next book kind of thing. So we're planning to start that next month. So that'll be
a lot of stuff in the process, hey?
Yeah, so that should be out. Well, the plan being is that's probably going to be out mid part of next year.
Good for you. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. It's definitely fun, mate. I don't, obviously Jason does more of the hardship because he documents most of it, but my lens is the research more than anything else. I contribute towards that.
Right.
but it's definitely fun. And it, like, writing a book, it's kind of your name's stamped in time kind of thing. You're out there, and it's not recognition of what I do. It's more the fact that I was here for my kids, that kind of thing. And it's my dad wrote a book, that kind of thing. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, what we've decided to do this week is, there's the comment section's just popped up. That's weird. So hi, Christopher. Welcome. So what we've decided to do this week, we're going to basically step through the different types of hauntings that occur. Some of them are very rare as us as paranormal investigators. I have actually touched upon a couple of them.
Right.
And I'm going to, like, me and Cathy are just going to kind of go through like our experiences in relation to these hauntings and stuff like that as well. I can start off. I can just start off by definitions and stuff like that, and it will kind of give us a guide of exactly what the type of haunting is. So to start off with the basic one, residential. Residential. Sorry, it's been a long week. A residual haunting. It's basically the process being is basically like an old movie that just keeps playing and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's the basic theory behind it is it's like a piece of energy. It's like energy being impregnated into a certain piece of mineral or material, and it will be triggered at any given, not any given time, but there's parallels in relation to when it will happen. So, for example, it will, 12 o'clock at night, there will be footsteps walking across my hallway because that's what the previous lady did at 12 o'clock at night. It's kind of that energy transfer. It's not intelligent. It's just that it's that energy stamp. There is a lot of parallels to the stone tape theory as well, which has been it is parallel to a lot of scientific research as well, which energy does transfer into matter. So what has been your experiences over the years with residual hauntings?
Residual hauntings. Honestly, I'm trying to run through my head here and see if I've actually had. I know that one of our investigators did go to a house. It was an empty house, but they heard like the house was completely empty, and so there's no furniture or anything. And on their EVP, they caught a grandfather clock going off. So I'm thinking that must have been some sort of residual energy that they were experiencing at that time, because it was, with a certain time and the whole bit. I don't know if I particularly have had much experience with that personally. Mine have been more intelligent hauntings, but how about you?
So, like the whole concept of it, like a tape recorder playing over and over and over and over again, it does delve in a lot into what science requires for us to quantify what we do as paranormal investigators. I'll explain why. So basically, what science asks for in relation to what we do is a regular readings. So it will be something that's continually monitored. So, for example, you'll go to a house and you'll get that continuous reading going over and over again. That is a parallel with residual hauntings. Myself, I've experienced a lot of what I've deemed as residual hauntings over the years, but I've never actually once where I've gone back to the place at a certain time later, where I got that reading, and then the following day I got the same voice came through saying the same thing.
Right.
But a lot of the times where we classify things as residual, we just throw it into a basket, because a lot of the times when we were using tape recorders back in the early days, there was you'll say, "Oh, is there anyone here?" And then you'll get something like Karen, no, you'll get something like the door shut or something like that, something completely random. So,
Right.
what we used to do is just throw it into the basket. Oh, it's residual, because it made no sense. And it was more to do with the fact that there could be kind of a time lapse in relation to the question you asked. So, in that respect, do we, what we perceive as residual, is it actually residual, or is there a kind of a break in the time between when we actually project when we say something and when we actually get the responses back? Because we don't, like, very rarely have I ever come across a paranormal investigator that have had consistent readings from from that time over and over and over and over again. It's always been like, oh, it could be residual because it didn't make any sense, but we don't know how that communication came to us. So, but I guess the classic example of a residual haunting is actually in the. Have you ever heard of Doomsday Book? It's a chronicle log in Britain. It's actually I think it's in London. It has a document of all the events that have happened in Britain since, I think it's like from the 4th century or something like that.
Okay.
There's actually a statement in there, and it was back in the I think it was like the 14th century, where it was the Cavaliers and the Roundheads, and it was an internal civil war between the Brits. It was the English. It was over land and territory and stuff like that. They had a big battle in the field, and they fought. Apparently, the battle went on for like hours and hours and hours, and eventually, I believe the Roundheads actually were victorious, and then they went down to the village to celebrate. They were in there, as they're doing, you picture it on the show like Henry VIII. They're all drinking their mead and stuff like that, eating big chicken bones and stuff like that. And, the women have got low crop tops and stuff like that, but then they got warning that there was people on their way, like there was more people coming in, so they got ready with their armor. They actually went to the battlefield where the guys were actually, the guys are actually dead on the floor, but apparently they actually saw themselves fight, and it was they saw a reenactment of them battling, like their own selves battling the other people. So that's been in Doomsday Book, and that is probably one of the earliest accounts of it.
Jesus, hey! Wow.
So
I've never read that. It's interesting, because like with residual energy, like you said, you don't know, like how do you really? I mean, I suppose unless you're there recording it on a regular basis, or you have that ability to, or maybe you're living in the house itself or the residence itself, like how do you actually know, right? But you
can't, and it's like you can't probably do it. It's kind of what we are anyway. Like our field, we're not certified in what we do, so we can't give a proper diagnosis of anything.
Right.
It's just all we've got is a bag full of theories, and we're just putting it all together, and we're trying to make a cake out of it. And that's kind of what we're doing, and we're trying to categorize something that we don't really know anything about, if that makes sense. Like, we assume that it's going to be a residual haunting, or we assume it's going to be intelligent. But we don't know. Like we don't know what type it is because it hasn't been quantified before. So I guess on that I believe I may have had been a witness to some residual hauntings over the years, but it's very tough because by definition, I don't think that there's a lot of people out there that have actually had that consistency. Like not maybe once, not twice, but like a whole array of readings at that same time to actually do a comparable to say, okay, that is a residual haunting as to how it's defined, kind of thing.
Right. I heard though, and I don't know if this is true or not. Is it things like water that can help help with residual energy or help conduct residual energy? Limestone.
It's minerals. It's basic minerals. It's like water is supposed to be an energy conductor because, like running water, because it's creating that energy. Like minerals like rock, quartz, and stuff like that. The theory behind that is that, it's not a theory. It's actually been scientifically proven. It absorbs energy as well. So that is what that imprint is. That's what's that continual tick over of that, that recording that is being played over.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, no, I've never experienced, not that I personally know of, but I suppose, to some degree, though, it would kind of help calm somebody just knowing that it was something that it was a residual energy going over and over again. Like it may give them some sort of sense of relief, I suppose, if you know that it's just something that it's not really interacting with you. It's not going to interact. It's just going to be a repetitive event.
Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, no, totally. And going back to what you said as well, when you heard the clock, now you're categorizing that as residual because, well, you said, sorry, pardon me, you believed that that was actually a residual, but then again, was that an actual intelligent? Because again, it's that categorization.
Yeah. Because unless you're there like repeatedly, you don't really know, right?
Exactly. It's not that stereotypical what residual is. And it's like, like when people hear music and stuff like that. You go to the famous accounts of a lot of bars and pubs and stuff like that is people singing in London in old bars and stuff like that. And again, is that intelligent or is that residual? We can't categorize that.
Absolutely. So what would be the next one?
The next one would be intelligent hauntings, and I think we've got there's a few comments that we have as well. Is there questions that we had? Sorry,
not so much question, but Adrian did say here, we have had intelligent ghosts that go through old motions, like the spirit in our house will occasionally take 3 steps in our hallway and then jiggle our bedroom door handle.
So, okay, so Adrian has defined that as intelligent. Now, I would the things with that as well. There's so many variables on that. Like how would you class that how would you get that line in the sand to say whether it's residual or whether it's intelligent? Because it could be something playing over and over again. But then again, if you've got something with like moving a door handle, to me that interaction would show me that it's more intelligent, if that makes sense, because it's actually it's not that video anymore. It's actually becoming physical. A
physical movement too.
A physical entity as well.
And the thing is, if it was residual, then you'd have to go and check, okay, was there what if the house was renovated? What if that door wasn't even there to begin with? Maybe they put that door in, maybe they created that room. Like it would be a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so the next one would be intelligent hauntings. So the basic premises of that is it's when a spirit or apparition has ability to communicate and interact with the living. So, for example, you ask a question, you get what you deem as an intelligent response back. I've had an absolute abundance of them over the years with some very unique answers in relation to the questions, some very personal responses as well in relation to me and my personal life as well, where it kind of question exactly who is actually there when you're at Joe Smith's house doing an investigation. When all of a sudden you get, I get my full name being belted out, or you get all of a sudden you get, I think I had at that time, it was before my daughter was born, but I had my sister's name as well. So it's things like that, and it's not just a first name; it was a second name as well, and it was just
wow.
But yeah, no, I've had a complete abundance of them over the years. Investigators' names. I've had my name. I've had yes, no responses. I've had how many fingers am I holding up?
Yeah.
There's been complete. There's been a lot. I guess thinking back, one of the most memorable was we were investigating a hotel just up the road from here where we are on Kamloops, and there was I was in a dining room area, and with Kelly Berg, at that time she was my VP for Vancouver Paranormal Society, and I asked the question, "Where are you?" And I meant, "Where are you?" in the proximity and stuff like that. And
Right.
I heard this angelic voice say, "Heaven." And it came and it wasn't an EVP, because I had my headphones down, and we both heard it, and it just, honestly, even thinking about it now, when we actually heard that voice, it was like heaven, and the hairs on my arm stood up, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but yeah, that was probably one of the most it's probably one of the most memorable EVPs that had a big impact on me as well. And there was actually another one where we were in a residential school, and I heard a child scream as well, and that was really painful for me to hear, obviously being a parent as well, and that was kind of an agonizing scream on that respect.
So I had this experience a long time ago before I got into investigating, and this was I mean, we had, quite a few, and some of those are in the book, obviously, but this one I would have to say was probably one of my more dramatic, I guess, intelligent hauntings. And I was in my son used to wake up all the time. I thought he was going through what do they call that? When they have trouble sleeping at like 1 or 2, and when
That's
they're, what's that?
It's called being a teenager. No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah, well, that's now.
Yeah.
Up at 2 in the morning on his video games. Sleep terror.
Oh yeah, night terrors. Yeah.
Right. And so this was going on every night. And I don't know, he was probably about a year and a half, and he was still in his crib at that time. And so I would go into the room, and he'd be screaming, and he's pointing into the corner of the room, and and he was just bawling, and I'd put him down and rub his back, and over and over. And and finally one day I said, well, what are you pointing at? And he goes, the guy is over there. The guy, like, he didn't say over there, but the guy, and by this point I was so tired. Like, this had been going on night after night after night. I was exhausted. And I looked in the corner, and I was like, get the hell out of my kid's room right now. I didn't know who I was talking to. I knew nothing. But all I saw was my kid. He was he's in his little crib, and he's got his hands on the railing, and he's looking in the corner to where, I yelled at, and I watched his eyes go like this all the way to the door of his room.
Crazy.
And I just sort of stood there, and I was looking right at him as he was doing this. So he kind of looked behind me. Like, you could tell that he wasn't looking at me. He was watching behind me as he walked as whatever it was, walked apparently to the door. And I said, by this point, I'm like shaking. I'm like, oh my God. And I said, is he gone? And he just went, mm-hmm. And he laid down and he fell asleep. And that was the end of that. Like, it was done. So he watched as somebody walked out of the bedroom. But I remember there was another time too where I'd be giving him a bath, and my back is toward the door, and he would look around me, and he would go, who's that? And so of course so I mean, for us, that was probably the most terrifying, because like, I mean, my kid is seeing this. We're not seeing this. My daughters aren't seeing this, but he's interacting with something. And it was a little bit, yeah. But that actually, what, to be honest though, that's what got me into the paranormal research, right? Was his experiences. Even though I had had many experiences, up leading to that, I think that was the thing that went, okay, I gotta figure out what the heck is going on. Like, what is going on out there? Because there's something,
Crazy.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone watching us, which I suspect there is, just feel free to comment on the type of hauntings you believe you've experienced, and we can definitely bring that up on the show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear them. Would love to hear them. You know, have you ever seen like a full-blown apparition?
I've seen a shadow. I've seen a shadow figure a couple of times. Like just
Oh,
a silhouette of a man, but black, like a
yeah.
manifestation of energy. I've seen. I've seen an old man when I came out of my transplant. My brain was all scrambled up, and it took me a while to like ground myself. But when we were investigating the hotel just up the road from here, we were. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I saw a guy walk into the hotel, and we were the only ones in there, that kind of thing. And I didn't for 1 minute think. I didn't think for 1 minute that it was even like an apparition or ghost or anything like that, because to me it was an old man walking in there. He had like this black trench. He had like a black kind of trench coat, white earth thing that he had on, and he had grey balding hair around the outside, average height, and he just walked into the back of the bar area. And I thought at that time there was someone in there, and I had all my equipment in the back, so I got up and I ran to the bar area at the back, and nothing. I got all the investigators we had at that time to go and look throughout the whole of the hotel to see whether there's anyone in there, and everything was locked up. So I believe I saw a full blown apparition then. I've seen odds and ends like torsos and stuff like that as well, but nothing as detailed as that. Like there was, to me at that time when I saw that, it was like me looking at you, Cathy, thinking there was nothing wrong. It was only the fact that there was no one in there. And then the following day, the Dana actually went through who was the manager there at the time. She went through the footage, and there was no one in the hotel, and she could actually see us get up. And I ran in through the back, and the cameras didn't pick up anything. It was only me seeing it. So I've either totally lost my mind, or I believe that I saw something. But I know hands down that I know my limitations, and I know that I definitely saw it. That's for sure. But I've seen things over the years, like I've seen like white figures and stuff like that as well, but nothing as detailed as that.
So this was a few years ago, and we were on an investigation, and we were with I was actually with another medium that was, on the investigation with me, and we had a couple of other investigators there, but we were kind of doing a preliminary with the clients to begin, to start off with. And they kept talking about, the hat man, like the cowboy. Okay. Yeah. And we've all heard the cowboy stories or whatever. And it was interesting because all of a sudden I could see him in my head. But here's the thing. He pointed at the other investigator that I was with, and I saw him go like that. And at the same time I saw him go like that, the investigator grabbed his leg and was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" And I hadn't said anything at this point. It happened so fast. It was like, boom. And then he grabbed his leg. He ended up with a bruise on his leg about that big. And I said, "Oh my God," like I literally saw this doing that. I don't know if that's an intelligent haunting or what the heck happened, but it was kind of crazy. It was like as though this guy just appeared in front of me and went bang.
Crazy. We just had a comment pop up, and okay, sorry, Facebook user. Would you like to comment your name? Sorry, I apologize. We've got there's a little bit of a glitch going on with StreamYard at the moment. But my late husband died in 1985. My daughter at the time was 4 years old before my husband went into my young daughter used to climb strokes forward. A few months later,
Mommy, who was the man sitting on my bed, stroking there? Oh my God.
Oh,
that is actually very sweet, to be honest.
It's so cool.
Very sweet. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Sorry, we can't see your name, unfortunately, for some reason on Facebook.
Yeah.
If you go over to the I Want to Believe channel, though, you'll be able to comment there. then we'd be able to see you. But I'm just going to read this out loud for people. My late husband died in 1985. My four daughters at the time. My daughter was 4 at the time. Before my husband went into palliative care, I was caring for him at home. My young daughter used to climb up on the bed and stroke his forehead while he was sleeping. Shortly after he passed away, a few months later, we moved into a new home. My daughter came down for breakfast one morning and asked me, "Mommy, who is the man sitting on my bed stroking my head?" That is absolutely precious. So precious. When we hear stories like that, it's so heartwarming to know that.
It gives it that validity of what we do as investigators, knowing that there's that, it just doesn't end like that. Something happens after.
Yeah.
And especially something, especially coming from a child that young, like they're so innocent, they don't know, they don't know. They just see what they, face on, and that, and they say what they say, kind of thing.
And they're being honest about it. They're coming from a place of, just from their soul when they talk about it. And it's absolutely gorgeous to hear that. It was like, and it was like what I said with my son. I mean, at the age that he was at, he couldn't invent the guy that was in our house. He, that was just purely from him having no restrictions, no barriers, no prejudice against anything. It was just something that he saw.
It's funny because when Mason was when Mason was like a toddler, his very first word was "dad," obviously.
Of course.
And his second word was "nan," and obviously, like my in-laws, they're known as pops and grandma and stuff like that. But
right.
My mum, when my nephew was born, and he always called her Nan, and he called her Nanny Knees as well. And Mason's first word was Nan, and then he'd say Nanny Niece, and he said that for like the whole time until his vocabulary picked up. And we'd say to him, "Well, can you see her or anything like that?" And he'd say yes, but he wouldn't be, he wouldn't say over there or anything like that, but he would acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And I talk to him about it now, because now he's like 7 going on 27. It's like, do you remember her? And he was like, "No, I don't." And so he's, the light's gone out now on him, kind of thing. Which is, kind of sad, but anyway. But
well, they kind of, they tend to. It's interesting though, because when my son was, I don't know, how old was he? He was in, I think, kindergarten at the time. And there was a period there. I mean, he used to see things all the time, but there was this one incident where he was at the playground and, in the schoolyard playground, and he refused to go out and play with the other kids. Like he would stay by the teachers. He was staying by the door. And the teacher, said to me, I don't know what's wrong. Like, I don't think he's getting bullied, but he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go and play out there or anything. And so, we asked him, we thought, okay, well, let's get together and we'll talk to him about it. And he says, "I don't want to go over there because the boy with the needle is by the slide." And the teacher was like, "What? Like what? Like, who's got a needle, out on the playground?" And so thankfully, this teacher was very, very open to Dre's abilities, let's just say. Okay. Like, she had had many experiences, with him in regards to that. Like, he would walk in, she would walk into the classroom and, maybe she would be late or whatever. And he'd say, "I'm sorry about your flat tire. I'm sorry that you got a flat tire." And she'd be like, "Yeah, you're the only one who knows that."
Probably about 400 years ago, he would probably been like dipped in a river or burnt at a stake for saying shit like that.
Right. So, a couple weeks later, this went on for a couple weeks where he refused to go out on the playground. And then he came up to us one day after class and he says, "Oh, tomorrow I can play on the playground." And we said, "Oh, okay, that's good." And he says, "Yeah, the boy said he's not going to hurt me, so I can go over there. He's just, he's just hanging around," kind of thing. And so the teacher actually did some research, and there was an overdose of a 16-year-old boy on that playground years before.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, it was, you know, and all both of us were sitting there just with our jaws down to like that, you know.
Thanks
But
for the story, Nancy. That was very warm and touching. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Okay, next one is poltergeist. So memory serves me correctly. So poltergeist is German for noisy ghost. Is a type of ghost which rarely has a physical form. In fact, it shouldn't by definition. But it's responsible for physical disturbances such as loud noises and objects being moved or destroyed. Now, over the years, that definition of a poltergeist has kind of changed slightly because there are some parallels in relation to the intelligent form of hauntings as well, where things do get moved, things are alleged to be thrown or things knocked off of tables and stuff like that, but not to the physical extent than what you see as the the poltergeist video, the movie and stuff like that, where things are like maliciously being thrown around. So I think on the whole, a stereotypical poltergeist where things have been moved. I have been witness to a couple of things physically being moved from A to B myself. Not to the extent, obviously, like the poltergeist movie and stuff like that, where where my daughter gets sucked into the TV and Caroline tells her to step into the light and stuff like that. But it's more.
There's a demon coming out of her closet.
Yeah, that's it. And it's more of that physical aspect of it, which there is some overlap on the intelligence side as well, where I have been witness to physical contact before. So I guess the answer to that in short is yes, I've been a party to that. There is also some other theories as well, like the Enfield poltergeist as well, where it was alleged that the poltergeist activity was actually connected to an individual, where they're going through some sort of physical or mental change in their body. Like, obviously she was coming of age as a woman, and there were certain theories behind her because she was becoming a teenager, and she was creating those physical movements with her own anxiety and temper kind of thing.
Yeah.
So to that degree, I guess I've never come across anything like that, and I don't know many people in the field that have. Where
actually, I think that is my experience with a poltergeist. That would be my experience.
Was that you personally? Did you
me personally? That was me personally, because so back before my son was born, it was my daughters and I living in a house, and I was under so much stress. I was going through a divorce. I had 3 jobs that I was working. I was, you're constantly like either working or trying to take care of my oldest daughter was about 11 or 12, and my youngest I think was about 5 or 6, and she was about 7. And so it was just, and all of a sudden things just started happening around the house, and it was and this is something within the book, so I won't go too much into it in case people want to watch it, buy the book. But we did have experiences, massive experiences with the Barbie dolls that I talk about in the book, where we would come in and Barbie dolls would be everywhere. But it got to the point where it was literally like on the horror movies that you see when the families are all living in one bedroom, or they're all sleeping in one bedroom, because my children were terrified to sleep in their room. There would be times, I remember there was times where my youngest daughter would be with me as I'm getting ready for work, and whether she had the morning off, or I can't remember exactly how it would be, but my oldest daughter wouldn't even be there. And it would hurt, she would be in the bathroom with me as I'm doing my hair, doing my makeup, getting ready. And we could hear a shuffling or a movement in the living room. But we also had dogs at the time, so you don't put too much thought into it. It's just the dog, doing whatever a doggy does. But we would walk out into the living room, and this is back in the VCR days. So we would have videotapes stacked up all of a sudden, and you're just, that it's not your daughter because she was with you the entire time. And that would be like, you would hear that, but I mean, we'd hear the shuffling, but it wasn't the same. it was just crazy. Little things like that would happen all of the time. And eventually I actually just sort of went, I'm done. I'm selling this house.
So in essence of what you're saying, like the original theory that was generated in regard to poltergeist was the general thought regarding poltergeist is the belief that these events are caused by the subconscious mind,
Right.
and centered around like an individual or multiple individuals at one time. So there is some parallels to that, and then also obviously that they are in effect psychokinetic activity brought in on by emotional or physical or psychological, stress as well. So that's the premise of what poltergeist activity is, and I think that there is a lot of slip over now of that definition where, like what I was explaining earlier on, like physical things happen and everyone's like, oh my God, it's a poltergeist. But it's that, I guess that the things like that would happen in an intelligent haunting, but we don't have a category for that because it's it wasn't defined, and it wasn't pointed at one individual. So it's not. It's kind of in its own name. We should come up with a name for it.
I think so. Well, here's the interesting thing is that there was one time I remember, and this sort of, it kind of, when this happened, okay. And I'm sure that people that are watching that have had hauntings within, in their own homes, there's that crazy period, that period where you're going like, have I lost my mind? Like, is this all, like, am I just losing my keys, or am I just like, is somebody screwing with me? Like, what the hell is happening? Right. And you kind of go through that mental anguish within yourself going, what the flying fuck was going on? Right. And you're ready to check yourself in because you're thinking, what is happening here? What is happening? Totally. But then it's also happening to your kids, and it's happening around people. And there was this one moment where my daughter, my youngest one, she went into her room and she came out. And when she came, like almost immediately, and her face was pure white. Like, you can't make that up. Like, this, it's like she came out pure white and shaking. And she says, there's a little girl jumping on my bed. And the tears just started pouring down her eyes, and she's shaking. And I'm like, the hell? And I went in and looked. Of course, there was nothing there, but that it was real. It was absolutely real to her. And and that was sort of that defining moment for me, where you get yourself out of Crazyville into going, okay, there's legit something going on here. And at the time, there was no investigators. We didn't, paranormal investigation, just not in our city.
No, well, it's only been like apparent over the last almost 2 decades. That this kind of thing happens. But it's with having groups out there that can actually help you, that kind of thing. So it's good, but it's bad at the same time. Okay, so next one is now this is a more of an old definition for me, which categorizes things like demons and other things with that as well. So it's actually, God, my brain's gone dead. It's inhuman hauntings. That's it. So that categorizes things like demons, angels, fairies, gnomes, genies,
elemental hauntings, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's basically inhuman spirits and entities that which have never lived as a human. It's more solely categorized now as demonic, because that is pretty much what most ghost hunters know of, is just that element more than anything else. But I guess in hindsight, Cathy, have you ever experienced any inhuman hauntings? And don't bring up your ex-husband.
Well, that ruined that story. No. No, actually, okay. So yes, I actually have. I would not say that I've encountered particularly demonic, in that form. However, I have encountered things that I would probably classify more as elemental. And I wouldn't say, fairies or something, but I mean, as a psychic medium, I work with, I guess, angels. For me, that's how I work particularly. But there have been times where I have gone, now I wouldn't say that they're face to face or anything like that. I see everything, in my head, which can probably sounds crazy to some people, but that's how I see things. I get shown. And I have gone into, let's say wooded areas or places like that, where it feels as though you're, that feeling of being followed. You just know that something is there, and then being able to see it. Now, as far as an actual case that we've investigated, I have not experienced it in that form, but I have experienced other forms of inhuman hauntings for sure.
Yeah, so the definition, well, the basic definition of elemental is you can't define it as a spirit, or it's just like a entity, or if I can use that in the correct term, that has the ability to manipulate the environment they're in. They or he or whoever. Much of the information of elemental comes from folklore, legends, and cultural beliefs. There's a huge element of that in North America with obviously the Aboriginal aspect, and we delved into that when we did an episode on Bigfoot as well.
Right.
Some believe elemental have the ability to manipulate environmental patterns around us or in localized areas. Elemental have a reputation of being extremely troublesome, but they're also embedded in a lot of cultures as well. So they have that kind of perspective where people live alongside of them as well, and they are difficult to remove because, again, you can't quantify things like that.
Well, it's interesting too, because I think that for the most part, pretty much every country or culture is going to have their form of an elemental to some degree, or even the inhuman, right?
Yeah.
So, if you were to, Ireland, they're very stringent on their fairies. Like, you do not mess with a fairy hill. Like, you just do not, right?
Yeah, well, the Irish, they spend most of the time drinking anyway, so they don't.
But even
I'm kidding anyone out there.
Going to more Caribbean, then you're talking about more of the hoodoo legends that they have as well, and some of them, even though they may go by different names, are going to, we have those experiences here as well, or North America. So
pretty much, I mean, in regard to elemental, I believe that you and I share a very similar case where I believe we both experienced elemental when we had that time lapse. That is by definition an elemental case where I actually investigated a basement of a pub. Of course, that's what you do in England. Where I lost a considerable amount of time, which I thought I was only down there for at the time about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I actually lost about 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
And I came up with the manager from the basement, and the pub was still open, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the doors were still open, so anyone could have come in and helped themselves to the liquor cabinet. In regard to demonic, I have a belief about demonic and stuff like that. I think that there is. I've spoken about this freely before. I believe that there is, as demonic as that subject goes, I believe that there is demons in a lot of cultures, but it's interpreted different ways to what we believe as us being, white human beings, in relation to like demons and God and demons and stuff like that. I am a documenting investigator for an exorcist in Washington State. I'm still, my opinion of that changes, like I do in the field by the day anyway, as I get different experiences and stuff like that. But there was one particular case that was by definition a case that was the closest. Was that you?
Well, not me personally.
Oh, Jesus.
I was a big burp, hey?
I
No, that
know.
was far outside.
Okay. Like, Jesus, woman, you're becoming possessed. No, it was probably like the what you perceive on TV about demonic possession and stuff like that. There are different stages before possession. The case that I undertook in Hope, BC, was as close to could be up to the point of actual possession that I believe that I will probably ever witness in my whole career as being a paranormal investigator. The details of that is in my first book, but that will probably take longer than what we have left on the show to complete. So,
They it's interesting though, because like especially with the portal and losing that time period, I actually, it's funny because I never really thought about that being, as I suppose an inhuman, but
it's
I
elemental,
absolutely feel that was.
but there's also there's also an overlap, and that's the next one we're coming to as well. There's an overlap between that and actual portal hauntings as
Right.
well, because that is by definition of what we experience. So I'm going to jump straight to that. So no one for portal hauntings, no one knows for sure if portal hauntings actually exist. All you've got is a psychic going, "Oh, there's a portal in the corner." The basic theory behind that is like a gateway or realm to the other side. People go on about opening and shutting doors and stuff like that. There's never been any physical proof in what we do anyway, but there's been a lot of kind of reports from psychic mediums that have sensed them in certain locations, and sometimes over the years where they've said that there's portals there. We have had luck with investigations and stuff like that. I'm not totally throwing the idea out, but me myself, I don't think that portal has really been a part of what I've done or I've ever come across anything like that. But then on the flip side of that, there is an overlap of that, the elemental side that we were talking about earlier on, where in theory that could have been a portal as well that we actually walked into, where we lost that sense of time.
Right. Yeah. And when it happened for me, we were in a basement doing an investigation, and the other people in the doing the investigation with us were right there. We could see them, and we were waving, and they would just walk away. And there was one point there where the door in one of the rooms just flew open, and that's exactly what all we saw was the door open and the door close. Whereas the investigator stated that she opened the door, walked right in, took a look around, didn't see us that were sitting right there, and closed the door. So, and of course that was right at the time where we were about to leave anyway, because the tape had run out. So we didn't even have it on camera. But, things like that. And I mean, nobody could see us. Nobody could find us. They were looking for us for about an hour, and we were right there thinking that everything was fine. Everything was fine. We just couldn't be seen. But it was weird because, now when you think about it, talking about Inhumans, I had a feeling like I wanted to go down into I kept hearing it in my head, go to the basement, go to the basement, go to the basement. And I had been sitting on the couch, just sort of chilling out. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to the basement and take a look. And I gathered up equipment and was about to head down there when the other investigator said, well, you're not going down there alone. We don't investigate alone. I was dead determined. I was just like, no, I'm going to go. And I think now, thankfully, that they came with me, because what would have happened? You get that. But it was probably one of the only cases that I had come home, and where you get that, oh my God, this could have happened feeling like that. That was the only case, after how many ever cases that we had been on, how many homes would we have been in. I never had that feeling before. This actually scared me.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So there are, like I had a brain fart while you were talking. Then I was listening to you. So there is like by definition things like near-death experiences that does fall under like the realm of portals as well, because you are, you technically you are going to another realm in relation to that. So it does fall under that. So I have had that element in my past, and things like as well, like mirrors as well. That is that's a part of the portal theory as well. And that and fire is supposed to be, but not like I want to step into fire to see whether that's going to work or not. But it's, and water as well. That has a certain theory in certain cultures of being that that step from where we are now to another realm kind of thing. And then you've got I think there's shaman portals as well, that kind of thing as well, which is embedded in the Aboriginal culture as well. So
yeah, I don't know, other than that experience, I don't believe that I have ever experienced a portal. Have you?
Near-death experience, for sure.
Well, not me with the near-death experience. I've never had that.
No, that's 100%, and I will take that to the grave of me. And fortunately, as we brought up at the beginning of the show, I have a lot of people that I know that have had that same experience as me. Not the people they meet and stuff like that, but the kind of the feeling that they had at the time. And there's certain parallels that we had when we had that near-death experience. That things that I, when I came out of my coma, I didn't want to discuss with anyone, because at that time I was like, why would I want to think about stepping to the other side, like going to that other place when I've got family and kids and stuff like that? So there's a lot there in relation to that for me, and it does pluck at my heartstrings as well. I think that particular subject, but with mirrors and stuff like that, I've tried scrying. I've done scrying now for 25, 26 years. That's subject to a lot of criticism from a lot of people as well, because of the what exactly you're doing, and your brain's, essentially you're losing you're taking senses out of your brain, and you may be hallucinating and stuff like that. But I had one particular time in the Colmont Hotel, which is in just outside of Princeton, where I was actually scrying, and I was looking in the mirror in a bar, and it was about 2:00 in the morning, and I was the only one there, and all the other guys were upstairs. And I was there, and I had my remote control camera in my hand, and I'm there looking in the mirror, and my face characteristics started to change. And the background I was in, the bar was, I think it was kind of a light red color. That all changed, and everything became different. And then just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had this feeling, and I smelt like this perfume, like someone was walking by the side of me. And I clicked my camera, and I got an apparition standing right by the side of me, of what it looks like a woman with a skirt on. And I'll have to share it. I don't know whether I can upload it or anything like that. I'll see whether I can do that now, actually, for the show. But so yeah, it was kind of really like compelling for me at that time. But I don't know if I can pull it up now, actually. But let's give it a go.
We'll give you some time to look for it. I'd like to see it, actually. I know.
Give me 1 sec. I'm not very tech-minded. Go on, carry on talking. Fill the dead space.
Well, I'm not sure what to say.
No, so in relation to what we discussed, what do you think is parallel to what you do, like as a psychic medium? Where would that fit into that equation?
Like what category you mean?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you know what? I would have to say a little bit of intelligent haunting, obviously, and probably inhuman for sure. right? Like if I was to put them both into a category, when people come through, people that have passed over, for me, I don't, I'm not one of those people. I'm not like, what's her name, Long Island Medium or something like that. That's gonna just walk up to you in the middle of a street and go, oh, you've got your whole family behind you, and and stuff like that. I don't even know how much I put into that. I'm not, I'm not dismissing her, but I mean, that's not how I work. It's more, as I'm doing a reading for somebody, all of a sudden I might hear a name coming through, and I'll say, does this mean anything to you? If it doesn't, we'll dismiss it, because when you're open up, you're kind of open to everything. But I remember one time, well, this lady's daughter came through just all of a sudden. I said, I don't know who this is. There's a teenager here. And we ended up, the daughter was kind of able to channel through me to some degree and really give me the answers. And not so much, the lady wasn't even asking questions. It was more the daughter just telling her things that, the lady had wanted to know about. She was like, oh my God, I was always wondering about that. So, for me, it has to be something valid. It's not just like, oh, I hear the name Mary and she might be a grandmother from somewhere. This is like, I have this man here and he's talking about a train set. And that actually happened with one client where, it was her father. I said, and here's his name. This is what he's telling me. It's it's something very personal to you. And, the train set happened to be set up in their basement. So for her, that was, very validating, right? When it comes to inhuman spirits, I have gone into people's houses when I've been investigating, and there's some crazy crap that I will see. And that's where, you had to kind of balance yourself and go, okay, like, am I nuts? Or is this truly happening? And that's where those Inhumans kind of come in, because, we're talking about, there's so many different types of elemental or inhuman, that we've got the typical, the grays, and, the things that we hear about in that form. But for me, I mean, I remember talking to one guy, and there was this massive big blue worm looking thing that kind of went behind him. And I thought to myself, I'm losing my head. But, at the same time, something on the counter where I saw this thing just fell off the counter. So, you know what I mean? So it was correlating to what was happening with the things that were going on. And, but you can't really explain to a client, well, there's a great big blue worm behind you. Like, I don't know how to, like, so you're just, well, let's just do this, but yes, it's been a journey for sure. You gotta love it.
I found the picture, and sorry to cut. So let's give a bit of background of everyone about the camera I use before everyone just starts jumping to conclusions about what that could possibly be on a logical side. So my camera is a modified camera. I've had the glass lens removed, and I have crystal lenses put on. I have like a crystal glass lens inside. So what my camera will not do, it will not reflect light. So you won't get things on there like orbs or anything like that. You won't get any glare or anything like that from a camera. So what you see on there is actually what the actual camera is. So effectively, alternatively to that, I could just take the glass out, and it will show everything that's basically on that camera at the time. So again, going back to what I was saying, this was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the Colmont Hotel, which is closed down now, just outside of Princeton. And I was scrying, and I sensed a woman by the side of me, and I had a remote control at the bar, and I took the camera and I took this shot.
Wow.
So there's me, obviously, sitting at the bar, and as you can see on the far, on top right hand side, you've got a light beaming down, and a lot of people said that, well, that was a light reflecting off the camera. That the camera would not reflect that particular image coming up there. To me, at that time, if you look at the bottom where there's a kink, to me that looked like a dress of a woman, And
It
at that
almost looks
time,
like an evening gown, like a dress with a slit up the side of it.
and like what struck me more to it was the fact that I could smell perfume. It was like really cheap perfume at the time, and something that you'd wear, Cathy. I'm only kidding. not as cheap as that. But
the Shoppers Drug Mart specialty.
Yeah, you got it, girl. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, no, that was it. That was probably one of the better shots that one of the best photos I ever had. The focus was slightly out because I had to take it off autofocus because of the way that the remote control was set. So there's a slight, again, a blurry image.
Yeah.
But it kind of speaks for itself what it's itemized in the middle of the picture there.
So has that ever been another report that people had picked up before?
Well, that particular hotel, there is oh God, Nancy's probably going to do some research on this tonight and like email me all night about it. But there was the Commonwealth Hotel was allegedly haunted by a woman, and I can't remember her name. Oh shit! So she was a lady of the night, and just outside of Commonwealth, there's a place called Granite Creek, and she moved to the Commonwealth during the mines because there was a I think it was a copper mine or gold mine just up the road. And she would service all the guys working in town. And Hattie McBride, that's it. So she was she was a lady of the night, and apparently she got very personal to one of the guys in town, and they were going to go off and have a relationship together and stuff like that. And it was apparently one of her last nights doing, her trade. And one particular regular guy didn't like the fact that she was going to do that, so he barricaded her into her house and set fire to her house, and so she burned to death in the house. Where her house was basically right at the end of the road, probably about a 5-minute walk from where the hotel was, and then you could walk. And apparently the sightings, not sightings, but the feelings and smells and stuff like that, is that you would walk up and down that road, and you would smell like that perfume or different types of perfume up that road, because apparently that's where all the ladies of the night or the prostitutes used to live was alongside that road. Allegedly, that was Hattie McBride that was visiting that bar, but there was no. We investigated that place for over 4 years. Yeah. And the only name we ever got coming forward on an EVP was a lady called Rosie, who actually was one of the other ladies of the nights, and she never actually died in Colmar. She actually left Colmar, and we got her name come forward as she identified herself. So we never got we never got Hattie McBride as as a positive identification. It was her.
Right. That's pretty cool, though. Oh, there we are.
There we are.
There we are. Yeah. No, that is a fantastic picture. We had that one in the, where was it? What was the name of that place? The museum.
Maritime Museum.
Yeah.
I can bring that up as well.
That was an amazing picture.
The lady in white. The lady in white of Bastion Square.
Okay. Is this the Facebook user? Is that Nancy? Because I'm not sure. She had.
That would be. Yeah, no, cool. Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah.
So this was. I can probably get that up as well. Let me copy that. Do my magic. So this was in Victoria, and this was in the Maritime Museum, and I think that we were the last team to investigate the place. You and I, when you came over with me, and let me just save this. So this particular room, this particular area was at the back of the old Maritime Museum, and it wasn't originally a part of the museum. It used to be a part of Bastion Square, which is at the back of it. That's where Begbie used to hang people and stuff like that. There is, and Nancy, you probably know a lot about this as well because you do a lot of research on ghosts and stuff like that. There is sightings around there of a lady in white. We were there how many years ago? About 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And let me just
about 2015, I think it was 2014, 15, something like that.
Yeah. So we were there then, and I set my camera up at the back. Again, it was the same camera, like a motion sensor camera, and I set it up in the back room where it used to be a part of the courtyard at the back.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm just trying to do two things at once here. Apparently, guys can't do that. So, basically, what it was, I set the camera up, and it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the pretenses that I was going to control the room, shut the doors, and we were going to have a late night there. And when things get dark, and that's when the camera's going to go off. So the camera went off approximately about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And the image itself reflects, you've got light. There's a light in there, and I'll go through the logistics of it. But it actually picked up. Right.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of you guys going, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? So basically the reason why that screen is white is the infrared light that I had blaring out in that room at the time. But it was daylight outside. So that's why you've got that bright white light. So directly at the bottom of the screen, like that rectangle thing by the side of that image on your left, is a glass table, glass cabinet.
Yeah.
At the back of that is one of those old cast iron radiators. So that gives you an idea of the proximity of the size of the room. It was a tiny room, but apparently, well, no, it was on the right-hand side of that. There was, that's where they used to hang people from, that exact area there. So that's why I put everything in there and shut the door. But on the left-hand side, my camera actually went off 3 times. I'm not going to share all 3 of the pictures, but this was the best one. That was not in a room. That was on, and there is some other clarity on the other pictures as well. There was a woman dressed up in a white gown with black hair, and she has been notoriously noted in Bastion Square. Now, Bastion Square is at the back of where this room is, so it would have been a part of one room at one point. And she's been sighted at various times in Bastion Square walking around because she was, and I might be wrong on this, but apparently she was one of the only women that was hung in that area, hung there during that period by Judge Begbie.
Wow.
So, yeah, that one there.
And you can definitely, I mean, it's such definition on the hair. You can see the gown, that white gown, you know.
Yeah, for me, that's compelling for me. A lot of people may criticize it and scrutinize it, and they have their own questions because they weren't there. But you and I were both there, Cathy. And
well, and also too is the 3 pictures. You took the 3 pictures. It went boom, 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 right?
It picked up, like, the motion sensor picked up all 3 of those. So it picked up, like, the first one, it picked up movement, and it took a side picture of her coming into the shot, and then that was the biggest part of it, that actual full image. And then the second one was, like, you can just see the back end of a gown or whatever she's wearing. So
yeah.
So there you go.
Somebody, Facebook user is saying, "Hey, Peter, I'm not sure who that is, but
identify yourself." Whoever it is. Sorry, it's getting really goofy lately. We're not getting many people names coming up on the Facebook.
The Facebook, I think, is it's, I don't know why it does that. Cody.
Oh, it's Turk. How you doing, mate? Cody Turk. Good stuff. Okay, I think that's it. That's a wrap for this week. We will be back next week.
We will be here.
Let's give a bit of airtime to Cody.
Hi, Cody.
And Adrian. I don't know what jumped into there, Adrian, but nice to see you again, Adrian. Well, virtually anyway. Okay, so yeah, we'll be back next week for another show of the I Want to Believe chat show on the channel, and tune in next week, guys. I hope you like the show. You guys on Facebook, if you do like the show, please, if you can show your support by subscribing to our channel as well on YouTube, that'd be greatly appreciated. And if you have any ideas or feedback for any ways that we can move the show in other directions, be grateful to hear that as well. So it's your show as well as ours. So take care, guys, and we'll be back on next week.
Have a good week. Take care.